Hey, how you doing? Let's do it to it. Okay, dokie. Okay. D4, D4, D5. Knight C3. D takes. Knight takes. Knight D7. Knight F3. Knight GF7. There we go. Takes. Takes. Bishop G5. Then C5. This was an idea that could actually be played here. It's a pretty fun idea. C5. Bishop B5 check. Bishop D7. Bishop takes. Queen takes. This actually helps black get rid of his bad bishops, so you should thank your opponent much for doing that. Bishop E6 or E7, then you castle. Castles, and then castles. C takes D, and then Queen C6, with some ideas of taking there. So interesting line. So H4. Let me see. King B1. Queen takes C5. Knight E5. Rook FD1. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. And then Knight D7. This is Timid versus Krochnoi. Knight E6. Let's see. Queen E7, sorry. B5. And then A6 exclam. Is actually an equal position, surprisingly, is an equal position. Since Queen takes is actually a pure out mistake. It's a big time mistake. D to DB8 wins for black. It's actually wins because he can't take here, because if he takes there, that would happen. And then if he tries to retreat back like this, you have rook takes check. And you actually have here, and if there, then queen check, king there, takes, and if there, queen takes, takes, king takes, and then rook d8, and it's game, set, and match at that point. Because when he moves, you pick up a piece, and even if he tries to do a back rank, you just play h5, and you're up so much material. It's a sad state. So just play smart, you know what I mean? Just play good, and don't fret about things. And then just have a little bit of fun. And we'll do a analyze game of. Oops, I need to get my drinks. Hold on. Let me get a sip. We'll get started. Queen's Gambit decline. Marshall. In this, my opponent resigned with a lot of play still left. His opponent did. His opponent is C. Sketchener. So D4, D5. He's playing the Queen's Gambit declined. His opponent does. Excuse me. Bishop D, E7. Knight F3. Knight F6. Bishop G5. Knight to B D7. E3. Castles for white, blue, black. Queen C2 with an attack along here. Also preparing castles and preparing the bishop for a big time whop. As played in previous game, this and white's next point to attacking policy is characterized by castle queenside, just like what we talked about. So rook E8, we're gonna play Harry, and then C6 to convince my opponent and giving black a freer game. You could potentially play this move here. This would give black a freer game if you had played C5, because then black can play on the king side. Does shut down the position, but so Marshall played A3, which is actually a better. He says a good move. White is now content with simple positional play. For the cramped state of black's position will eventually bring its own attack. So what's going to happen is we're going to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze some more. His queen bishop, so this bishop right here, his bishop on c8, it's cramping his bishop on c8 and facing the future of an entombed bishop like what we talked about. Isn't a wonderful thought to think about. Knight f8, bishop to d3, pawn takes, and then bishop takes. So what we've actually learned from this scenario is my grandmaster teacher always told me that what you do is you don't take this would be a really bad idea to do, is to actually take right now, because this helps develop a piece in one move, the bishop out to c4. Even if it's not really much doing, if it's not really doing much, you still developed a piece. But if you wait a move and then your opponent goes bishop d3 and now you take, they have to waste a move to actually take back. They have to actually waste a move to take back. So they're not gaining a tempo. Rook, let me see, where are we at here? We're on move 10. Bishop to d6. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Knight to d5, that's what I mean. Queen to e4. This is trying to dominate the center. Knight takes knight, queen takes knight, and then f6. This does not help matters as it weakens this diagonal here, the e8 to h5 diagonal, and cramps black's position even more. And the move is sadly limited because he can't liberate himself with the natural e4 or e5 move. So it's a sad state of affairs that they're going to have to actually do that. Bishop to e3. Okay, pawn to a5. They're going to try to clamp down white's position. Bishop to a2. This stops. See, the idea is to play b5. Now if black plays b5, it's not with tempo again, so it's another waste of move, and it also hangs a pawn. So that's a prophylactic move. So now the light square bishop tries to come out with d7. And white castles kingside. And then queen to b8. The fact that black finds it necessary to undertake such a cramping regrouping maneuver merely for the purpose of bringing his dark light squared bishop to an inferior square shows how faulty his opening play was. So what he's saying is he's in such a cramped position that he's trying to get his bishop out, and d7 is actually a really inferior square for the bishop to be on. What he should have tried was somehow maybe get the queen here and then play b6 and get the bishop out via this diagonal here through a fianchetto. But he didn't do that. He's actually in a very inferior position, which is going to bring about his downfall. King d1, king fd1, rook to c8. This is so that somehow he can get b5 in. His position is so clamped down that it's really not a fun thing to be in. So queen d2, double exclam. This gets off of the file and prepares to bring the a rook into c1, which then at the right moment could actually rook a c1 could allow potentially d5, which would cause a lot of chaos down a2 to g8 diagonal, which would benefit white tremendously. White's logical goal is to push d5, like what we talked about. I didn't even look at it, so that's cool. And open a whole new line of an attack with his bishop. So always, what this should teach us, I guess, from at this point, move 18, my chess cruncher team should teach us that we should, if it looks cramped, even in our opponent's camp, and we feel like we don't have any attack, look for a way to open a new attack. Or as Jeremy Stillman would say, look for a way to create more weaknesses that you can take scope in. And d5, pawn d5 would take scope of a2 to g8 diagonal, which would open a whole nother front in war. It's called the front of an attack. It'd open a whole nother front along a2 to g8 diagonal, and that would be a whole nother area he would have to worry about, our opponent would have to worry about. So that's really nice. So bishop to e8. He's trying to, at the right moment, meet d5 with bishop to f7. Well, we play it anyways. We're like, you know what? We've already, and sometimes my grandmaster teacher told me, he said this: you need to, if you're gonna go with your plan, don't change your plan in mid plan movement. So if you have a plan that's not going to destroy your position, like d5 is an exclam, it's not going to destroy Marshall's position. Even if the bishop got to f7, we can clamp it. We can even cause more chaos with d6. We can actually push pawn d6 and then cause more cramping in the position. And so it's not like that we have to take when the bishop goes to bishop to f7. We don't have to take d takes e6 and allow our opponent to do what they want. We can just keep the position more closed and just keep clamping down on that. Bishop takes pawn, or c takes d5. E takes d5. Pardon me. A rook d8. Pawn takes. He gave an example. This is actually a double question mark blunder. This is totally losing here. because he's saying that queen takes check, and there's no way to stop it when the king moves mate. If king h5 h8, that's mate, and if bishop intercepts, that still leads to mate. And let me see here. If e5, which is not a blunder but a mistake. This would be a mistake here. You pick up a piece with d6 check. d6 it wins material, so that if bishop f8, f7 you take, king takes, and then pawn takes, and you've picked up a piece. So now you're going to be going for the win, basically, because now you have oops, sorry, you wouldn't want to do that. That actually hangs a piece, my bad. You would have to just be patient, set up potentially rook a c8, and then now this bishop move is a playable idea, and it's destructive to black's camp. So if you're wondering why black did not take, that is the reason black didn't take. It would have been mate 2. Or mate 3, sorry. Mate 2 or mate 3, either one. Okay. Bishop f4, exclam. So he's had 3 back-to-back exclams. White has, and black actually resigned here because there's really no there's no play that his opponent really can go down. I knew my position was strong, but not that strong. I likely continuation would have been queen to queen rook to a7, pawn d6, knight to g6, bishop takes pawn check, king h8, pawn h5. Hold on, what did I? Somehow it says I must have missed something here. It says that I can actually take the bishop. Maybe I missed something back here. Oh, this here is what I missed. Ah, okay, and this is the exclam. And that's why he resigned here. Okay, I gotcha. Queen to a7. Okay, that makes sense. Here, knight g. Bishop takes check. King there. Knight takes bishop. Queen takes knight. Bishop to f8. Rook to d5. Bishop c6. Rook to I apologize. I think I made a mistake here. Let me see. Let's see. So we're good on that. Knight to it's not rook. I gotta delete that. Let's claim bishop takes. Oh, this is right, okay. So takes rook. Knight here check. King takes. Pawn takes. And mate in a few moves. And that's mate. Oh hey, how you doing? Play okay. Okay, I gotta put a mark where the next one's gonna be. That's good. You ready for some puzzles? Are you ready for some puzzles? We went over a line of the there we go. Yeah. Have some I have some Perrier. So it's really good. There we go. Let me see here. So we'll get some pawns. Okay, there. Put the king in here. How many rooks are there? 2. Boom, boom. So just one bishop then. Where's the opponent's queen? There it is. Okay, let's do the white pawns. Let's get the knight in. And then the queen. Let me see, do I have everything? Oops, I forgot the king. Let's see, there. Yep. This should be a walk in the park. So what do you think the puzzle is? I gotta get this. Yay, good job. There you go. Queen takes, yep. This one's a pretty fun one too. Yep. You got it. Okay, what's the other mate? What's the other mate? There's one more mate. There's one more mate. Do you see it? There you go. There it is. When there's two mates, I love finding both of them. go. Oh, hold on. Sorry. That's the wrong one. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. That was the wrong one. Sorry. Yep. Isn't that that's interesting. Yeah, I just heard that too, so it's like that was pretty shocking. But you know what? It's just one. Excuse me. It's just one game, so you know what? That tells us right there that anybody can be beaten. Anybody can be defeated in chess. Yeah, and you know what? That teaches us. That gives us hope for this one thing. Anybody can be defeated. So just think of it as something positive that now we have a chance at, even if Magnus Carlsen can be defeated by MVL, maybe we can later on when our rating gets high enough as well. We can play in that tournament league too and win. Yeah, gotta always shoot for the stars. So. And also it shows us that nobody is perfect, so that's there's hope that's as well. So yeah, that was a shocking thing though. But you know what? We we get, if you have the game, you can learn how MVL played, and then apply it to your study. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Hard and succeed will come to us. I like it. hmm That is true. Oops, I had to put in my mate too. This is somehow I turned to the wrong page. This is the right one now. That was really odd. I had the wrong page. But hey, we got it fixed now, and that's all that matters. Let's see here. How do we get an attack on our opponent? We need somehow. Let me make sure I set this up right. Yeah, I did. Everything's right. There's a mate here for, let's see, is it white? Yeah, mate 2 for white, so just gotta figure out a way. Oh, I got it. I found it. Found the mate. If you need a hint, just tell me. But I'm sure you'll get it. Yep. There you go. And if queen takes rook, knight, uh-oh. Nope, that can't be. No, that's not mate. That's not mate. This is really odd. This is different. That move wasn't mate. I got it. I got it. I know the right move now. I got the right move. I know the right knight move now. It's actually knight d6, knight d6, and if king takes d6, then c5 is mate, and if queen takes c, then knight to b7 is actually checkmate. And if the rook moves, if the queen moves, if this pawn can't move, if this pawn moves, or if this bishop moves, knight to b6 is mate. This took me a second. I had to send it through my pattern database, and I was able to, as I like to say, calibrate it right. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. So let's see what we got here. This one's a right in. This one should be straightforward for you. Yep. Boom. There's the pawn mate. Okay, let's get this this one taken care of. I think that's it. Yep. Wait, we got one pawn. So there. All right, perfect. This one should be another straightforward, or as we like to say it, walk in the park. Yep, there you go. There's the mate on g6. Boy, these were really efficiently done. Nice. You're really taking scope on these. That's good. Well, it shows us one thing too, that it's not all about material, because you can be down a whole queen and a lot of pawns and still have the mating idea. You could be down a queen too and you still have a mating idea. Yeah, here's another straightforward one. There we go. It takes and then b4. See? What it also teaches us, don't get your king on the side of the board where it's by a lot of pawns too. So we should take scope on this to not have our king get trapped. So we should learn from these puzzles so that we don't actually set ourselves up for one of those tactics to be dropped on us. There you go. Great find there. Nice. We're on record pace. Let's make sure I have this right. Got it. Still good. 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 Okay. There you go. There you go. That's good. You're making short work of those puzzles. Sometimes we get blessed and we get ones that are really straightforward. And then sometimes we get those that are really complicated. But either way, we're going to solve them good. Let me make sure I got this there. There. Good. Still good. Still good. Still good. Still good. Does it look a little familiar to a puzzle we might have done on chess.com? Remember the puzzle that we I think you might have been there when we did this one puzzle. It reminds me very similar of a sacrifice and then mate that we had. It tells you that puzzles are very similar. I'll give it a second to reboot. And the rook has to be rook A G8, his mate. There you go. Good job. Good job. Wow, there's a boatload of pawns for black. Wow, wow, wow. There's a boatload of pieces too. Pieces for black on the board. Wow, wow, wow. A lot of material. But remember, it's not about material. It's about checkmate. Oops, I forgot one more piece. There, okay. This should be another straightforward one too for you. You should be able to solve this one. This shouldn't be too much of a sitch for you. I know you'll get this one. Yeah? Is there do you have a problem with the puzzle? You can't send the answer, but you're typing. Let me see. Try it again, see if it works. Does it actually work? Huh. You can do plus signs with this also. Oops. This also means checkmate. That also means checkmate too. If you can't do that symbol, that means checkmate as well. Queen. It's actually queen f6 check. Bishop takes f6. Knight. Oh. Drat. That's not it then. So b6 check. Pawn takes. Then knight e6 checkmate. So you got that right. I'll have to check into that, and we'll have to figure out why it's not allowing that to happen. Yeah, so if here, there's really no way to stop it but by taking, and then that's checkmate on the F's. You had it. Okay, dokie. Nice work there. No, you had the right move with knight e6. You just had it in the wrong order, so you just needed one move. There. Okay. There. Okay, I'll have you work on this while that's coming up. That's really fast, so take a really quick look. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that a little later, and we'll get that fixed. So this is white to move mate 2. I've seen some players do that. This is for mate. I think it has to do with certain letters are charged. Certain letters are charged by the system, and some people have just used letters for bad words and stuff, and so when the system reads that, even though it's a chess move, they're thinking that it's a bad word. Sadly, that's the case. I think that's the only mate I can see. So we'll get into our endgame now. We did our 12 puzzles. Okay, this is the third world champion, Joel Raul Capablanca. Joel Raul Capablanca was born in 1888 and sadly passed away in 1942. Is considered by most to have been the greatest natural talent in the history of the game. He didn't put much time into opening study and much preference preparing a night on the he basically partied a lot, and so that's kind of what it is rather than analyzing. Nevertheless, when he sat down to play, everything just seemed to magically click. His plans and moves were crystal clear, and no less a player than Alekhine said that he had never seen anyone else with such a fabulous and quickness of chess comprehension. Looking on as an unbeatable chess machine, the legend Cuban was the most famous for his endgame skills. However, he didn't play to reach an endgame per se. Instead, Capablanca tended to see the whole game as one living organism, with whatever set of advantages he obtained often flowing logically right into an endgame. So Capablanca didn't look at chess Okay, thank you for doing that. But I gotta tell you that Capablanca looked at chess not as just a 3D with pieces, plastic pieces or wood pieces or whatever you prefer to play with. He looked at it as a living, breathing army. And so when his army needed him, he would come to their heed. And when he needed to be defensive and retreat his army, he would heed their warning. He could feel basically what his pieces were feeling. He could sense what they were sensing. He can see what they were seeing, and so he was able to see beyond the board, as I like to say. He saw the dimensionlessness of the chess, and he was able to use it. And he turned his reality to that board. When he was playing, he was playing. He wasn't out here. He wasn't outside. He was here. He was the king. He was the knight. He was the pawn. Capablanca was the pieces. Yeah. And so he had oops, I forgot to get a rook. He had a deep understanding for chess that most players didn't have a lot like that. I think Bobby Fischer came the closest to that as well. And I think also Josh Waitzkins had that as well. I think he had that as well. That there's just some chess players that can just feel when a position is right, and he called it his spidey sense. So did Yaz and Maurice Ashley. They said you get this sense like Spider-Man knew when something was going to happen. And it went into like slow motion. And certain chess players, you'll get a feel. Yeah, and Alekhine had to work to get that ability. It does happen. It's for some that aren't naturals. They do have to work to get that ability. So it is possible even if you're not a natural to get that. So you're just gonna have to work twice as hard, maybe even 3 times harder, but you will get there. Okay, dokie. Oops, I have to go back. It was black to move instead of white. Okay, there. And I know kind of what he's talking about. When I get into that zone, when I'm playing over the board, it's like the army is real. They're not just plastic figures. They are me, and I'm them. And I am in charge of them, and I have a great responsibility to make sure they're safe. Oops, hey. Just want to make sure I have that right. Okay. The middle game position was one outstanding feature for black. His queenside pawn majority. Um, what would you say here? Play okay. What do you think the best move for black is here? If you were black, what would be your best move here? Since you have a majority and you already have this pawn protected by the queen, what piece do you not have in the fight that would help you with getting these pieces pushed? I mean these pawns pushed. What piece would you like to bring into the fight to help get these pawns going up the board? You want to get your pawn majority rolling, so you're going to have to bring a piece in there to help out. What piece would you like to move there? It will. The only problem with going no, it's white. It's black. So what piece for black would you want to move? Because you want to get these pawns a rolling. You already have this protected. Yeah, it's black to move, not white. Because Marshall is white and Capablanca is black. The only sitch with playing a6 is that the queen could actually take. So you actually will lose your majority. Yeah. Oh, always. You could try again as many times as you need. Because the whole purpose of this is endgame is to teach you how to think endgame. And Capablanca knew the right moves. It was like something that the Lord Jesus bestowed him with, and I hope he didn't take it for granted. I think a lot of us take a lot of the gifts that the Lord gives us for granted sometimes. Yes, you got that. You got it right. So, what rook though? Which rook would you do it? Would you go the the rook A B or rook F B? Which one? Which one of those rooks would you go? Oops, I forgot to put an 8 for both of them. Hold on. Which one of those? Because you have to choose a rook. Or like on Indiana Jones, choose wisely. Which rook will you choose? Only one is correct. So you have the rook right, but which one? Which rook? Which rook is the one that's going to move to here? Which one? Which one of these? Yep. If you said yep, rook A. If you chose rook A B8, you were 100% right. Rook A B8 is actually the move that Capablanca played, and then Queen B4 for to pin the bishop to the king to the queen, and then bishop C7. This gets out of the pin and protects the pawn, and still keeps in protection with the B pawn. Yep, you got it. You got it. Nice. So rook F3, and so Marshall's going to try to actually double up. now b5 can actually be played here, because otherwise the bishop, yeah, b5, and then Marshall played a3, and then he played c4. And now this puts a tremendous bind in White's position. The rook can't go to b3 or to d3. So the rook is kind of like in stalemate, as we like to say it. It has to go back to get any mobility. Bishop f3. Lasker said that Black's advance could be kept to a minimum by White have played rook d1. Sorry, rook d1. This would have kept Black at bay a little bit. Would have kept him a little bit more at bay, because he would have White would have said, "I'm coming for the open file. What are you going to do about it? Prove it." You know, it's kind of like saying, "Prove it." Then rook fd8. Now he's Capablanca is like, "Okay, I'll prove it. Don't you worry." Then cc1. And basically you would have about an equal position. Slightly favors Black a little bit because of his pawn pressure, but it's about equal. And that's what Alekhine said that Lasker, not Alekhine. Lasker said that it would have limited Black's advantage by playing rook d1, but didn't play that. Marshall played bishop f3, and then rook fd8. So now Black says, "Okay, if you allot me, I'll take it. I'll take the open file. I really appreciate that you would give me that." So then the rook would take, the bishop takes. And then now the rook comes over. Capablanca now completely dominates the open file. Bishop f3. It's going to be 3 moves, or 2 moves before it can even get there. Well, I think the idea of bishop f3 was so that he could meet rook. I think it had a couple ideas. I think bishop f3 had an idea that allowed the king to have a flight square, and that if he could protect the open file if Capablanca brought the rook over, of course, which Capablanca is not going to if he sees an opportunity to improve the position, I would even play rook fd8. And so he figured that the bishop would cover d1, and then the king would have a flight square. So I think that was the idea, and this also helps relieve a lot of pressure. You know, it's really interesting. I wonder why he didn't. I think the reason he didn't play, he played g6 here, but I think the reason he didn't play bishop d5 was that queen f. I guess he didn't. He couldn't go f. He'd probably have to come here. Queen there, and potentially then. Well, that would kind of be a bad idea because of that. Okay. I was just wondering. I wanted to see why he didn't play bishop d5. This gives Kappa, his king, kind of a safe. Inside of castles, they had rooms that were secret rooms. So this is Black's king has a secret room now. and his room is G7. But in the medieval times, you always had somebody who, like they say, they knew the goat path a little bit. So somebody kind of ratted out the king and says, "There's a move here. There's a little weak spot." So got to have fun with chess. Got to make it real, so that when you're looking at it, it becomes real to you. And Capablanca would, yeah, the fortress, yeah. Let's see here. So Queen C6, Queen C6 here to trade off. Queen E5. Count Blanca says, not yet, my friend. I still have need of Her Majesty. She still has a purpose. I have to get my foot soldiers in the right position, and then when it's proper time, then I will trade my lieges off. Queen E4. And now Capablanca says, I like the position now, because what happens, see, if he would have traded here, if he would have traded up here, the bishop would have been attacking the pawn on b5. But now, when he trades here, the bishop isn't attacking anything. The bishop's not attacking b5, which gives Kappa a tempo to play. Having zipped through 11 moves, we found the basic natural position hasn't changed at all, except for the fact that we now have an endgame, which is 1 for black. This is a 1 endgame. There's nothing that white can do, because even though the pawns are on opposite colors of the bishop, these pawn chains is much stronger. Okay, okay. That's okay. Notice the pawns have. Let me see. Hold on. Zip through the moves. Natural position has changed except for the fact that the endgame, which is 1 for black. Black's middle game play was completely devoted to acquiring this kind of queenside majority rule that rules the world position. Note that the pawns have become threatening to black's bishop. Black's bishop is perfectly placed to support them, and black's rook dominates its counterpart since it owns the open file. Yeah, he could actually do that, but then the only problem is you have B, and then here, and I still think it's going to be a little bit harder. So I don't think Capablanca really wanted that. So he just decided to let's go down that. So rook d1 check, and yeah. Yeah, that would truly, yeah, you could actually set up for that. Very important, black must stop the approach of white's king by the means of rook f1, rook d1 check, king g2 is forced, and then a5. Rook c2. And as we can see here, that this is a really beautiful move, because white would want to actually come back to c1, but he's just one tempo too shy, one tempo too late, and so he's actually doomed the rook to the passive c2 square. The rook wants to go to c1, but it can't. So this rook actually is a dominant piece now over everything. It's tremendously powerful. And this bishop protects the pawn, which now we're just going to blast these pawns down the board. Bishop f3, and then rook b1. So bishop e2. Kasparov pointed out that rook d2 also fails to rook a1 exclam. This also fails to rook a1 exclam. And then bishop e2, king f1, actually bishop e, rook a2, king f1, c3, rook d8 check, king g8, b takes, c, and then rook a1 check, rook d1, rook takes d1, bishop takes d1, and then of course b3. And there's really no way to stop the queening. Taking, I think, loses because you'd have to reset your bishop up here. So taking is a mistake. b3 forces king e1, b2, and then if bishop c2, you have bishop a2, and then when the king comes, you queen, and you acquire the bishop. Yep, it's all about the tempo, like what you're saying. That's what it's all about. So rook d2. Okay, actually b3. Rook d2. Rook c1. If rook c2 or c3, rook takes, bishop takes, and then rook c2. And there's no way to prevent the loss of this bishop here, which this is an exclam. This is an exclam move. Bishop d1, f3, king f3 loses on the spot to rook d2, rook d4, c3, b takes, and then b2, rook b4, bishop d5 check, e4, and rook takes, c3 check, king f4, and then bishop to b3 at this point, which blocks the rook. So rook b1. So c3, pawn c3, b takes, b2, Rook takes b2. Rook takes d1. Bishop c2 loses to takes. It was even worse. The rest demonstrated Capablanca's brutal technique. Once he had an opponent on the hook, his opponent never escaped. Once he had his opponent on the hook, so like he's like fishing, and once he caught his fish, he didn't let it off the hook. Rook c2, bishop f5, rook b. How could that be? Rook b2. Oh, okay, gotcha. Rook c1, rook b3, bishop b4 check, king h3, rook c2, because we're just slowly depriving the opponent of everything. f4, h5, g4, h takes g, king takes g. So the king's trying to, what they're trying to do is eliminate, white wants to eliminate these two pawns if he could, and then he'd get to a potential end game where it's a rook versus bishop, which is a draw, usually a draw. Rook takes h2, b4, f5 check, king g3, rook e2, rook c4, rook takes e3 check, king h4, king g7, rook to c7 check, king f6, and then rook d7. Bishop g2, rook d, and then king g7. And we'll probably, let's see how much time we got left. Yeah, we'll probably call it on this. Let me see how long the section. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, this is a little longer. Yeah, this is a longer section. So we'll probably pick this one up tomorrow. This is actually 3 pages. That one was only a page and a half. So do you have any questions? If you're wondering why Marshall resigned, if he tried checking on d7, king h6, and there's really no way to stop the mate from coming to pass on h3. This mate is going to happen. There's nothing that can be done. Okay. I wanted to thank you for logging on. We're doing good. You know, it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it to improve in your end game. And you know what? His stuff is so impressive. Capablanca's end game. He was a natural that the Lord blessed with talent and in chess, and he felt what the pieces were feeling, and so he was the general. And that's what we have to be able to do, is not look at it as a plastic piece, but we are the king. We're the ones that are pushing the army, and we're the ones that basically dictate if they're going to live or die. And that's the whole thing. So it's a great responsibility as a chess player that we're controlling an army that's loyal to us and will do whatever we tell them to do. So that's why we have to put on our Grandmaster glasses and be ready in season and out of season as the Lord's told us. And you know what? We have the mark of our high calling that we have to strive to, that we got to be ready. And you have to know, and like what you're saying, and apply, like what Bruce Lee says, and be willing and do something with it. And yet you're not always gonna win. But if you do win, treasure your victories, and if you do lose, treasure your losses. Actually, treasure your victories and learn from your losses. And remember that if you did a mistake in the game that you lost, it doesn't define who you are. It was you overlooked something, and then you learn from it and apply it next to your game. Bruce Lee also said that he didn't fear the person who practiced 10,000 individual kicks. Like, we don't fear somebody who has practiced 10,000 different openings, but he feared the person who practiced one kick 10,000 times. So if you know an opening that powerfully, then you know what? Well, there's your 10,000. There's your 10,000 times that he talked about. And also a journey is really important too. So if you start your first step in the journey is as important as your last step. So never give in to that each step isn't important. All of it is till the very end. And Bruce Lee did talk about that there are plateaus that we go through in chess, but we don't want to stay there. We want to go past that plateau, and sometimes we have to be patient, and the plateaus come and the plateaus go, but when you cross it, remember to never forget where you came from. That's important. And it is important what you think about too. So when you're studying, it's important if you go into studies that you're afraid of something, don't do that. Or if you go into your studies that something's bothering you, sometimes the best thing to do is to get up, get something to drink, or like some water or something like that, and just maybe close your eyes and get resettled down, and then start training again. Let me see, I think, and then our last one that we're going to do is don't give up, get up. So that's our chess motto. And you know what? We're chess crunchers. Chess crunchers hang up their coat, they hang up their hat, they sit down and study when most won't. A chess cruncher does. And that makes all the difference. So, and you know what? And always remember to honor the Lord with the gift that He's given you in chess. And I'll leave you with that. As Wesley so says, serve the Lord Jesus. And as I say, God bless. And I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening. And Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow, and we'll keep pushing forward. So 2 thumbs up. Hoorah. Be blessed. And remember, always honor the Lord with your gifts. And like what Hannibal Smith said, and I'll leave you with this last one. Always predict what your opponent's going to do. Know what they're going to do. Make a plan based around it. But don't forget your plan, and keep your plan in the back of your mind as well. Okay, great job. Hoorah, be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow. And have fun studying chess and playing chess. Bye-bye.